Yeah, hello everyone. So in this video we will see architecture of the K8s. So in the previous session I explained you that features of the K8s, right? So now we will see architecture and what are the main components and their functionalities. Fine. And the application deployment flow also we will see. Okay. So for your convenient, I am opening the MS Paint again. Fine. So generally the Kubernetes it is not running in the single mission. Okay, so you have to run it on multiple missions. The combination of those multiple missions calling as a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so there will be a one server dedicating for maintaining the cluster itself, and other servers are for your application deployments. Okay, so let me take this server as one maintenance server, and other servers as a worker nodes. So usually we are calling as this is a K8s master mission. Okay, and other three your Kubernetes worker node one. This one is a your K8s worker two. Fine. In the same way, this one is a your K8s worker three. Fine. Combination of this master and worker nodes known as your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, this is your cluster, your K8s cluster. So, so here there are couple of crucial components which are making the functionalities of your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so we will see one by one. Before this, how you are interacting with this cluster means with help of the kube CLI. Okay, so there is a component called kube CLI, which means how you are passing your inputs to the Kubernetes cluster. So obviously we are deploying our applications, right? So how you are deploying your applications means with help of this kube CLI only, we are writing all our instructions, whatever what are and all required for our application deployment. So all the instructions we are writing in one file, that file called as a manifest file. And see, whenever you are writing any file, that should be in the certain format. You should use some languages. Okay, so here we are using the YAML languages, so that's the reason the extension of this file should be .yml or YAML. Okay, so what this YML containing means, this YML is containing that how you are deploying your application. That's it. So slowly we will see one by one all these instructions and all. As of now, I want to explain the overall your application deployment flow along with your Kubernetes cluster architecture. Fine. So you can write all instructions in this file, and how you are passing this file into your Kubernetes cluster means with the help of this kube CLI. Okay. So the moment you pass this input, okay. So inputs. So then here in the cluster, one server is dedicating for maintaining this cluster itself. So that server called as a Kubernetes master server. So in this master, you are having one component called Kube API. This is the crucial component. Out of all components, this is the crucial component which is acting very important things in your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so this one it will receives your input from the kube CLI. Then from this onwards, it will validate your instructions, whatever you have defined in this file. Then accordingly, it will execute the things. Okay. First, what it will do? First, it will takes this input and it will be storing in our internal database, which is etcd. Your Kubernetes internal database. By default, this is etcd. Okay, then the kube API, what it will do? It will inform to your etcd, hey etcd, there is a request from the user through CLI. So just save this. Then immediately it will go and deploy the your application in the worker nodes. So this is the main thing, guys. By default, your master won't be deploying the application within that server. It will be deploying the applications only on the worker nodes. Okay, then from the worker nodes, so there is a component called kubelet. So this is the important component from the worker side, worker node side. So it will inform to API, inform to the kubelet, hey kubelet, so there is a request, you have to deploy your application. Then the kubelet, what it will do, it will, it is it is taking care of this worker node. Okay, so again you have another kubelet in your another worker. Okay, so this kubelet only taking care of that worker only, but kube API taking care of entire cluster, but this kubelet only taking care of this the respective worker node. Okay, and there is uh, one more component called as a scheduler. Okay, so scheduler, this scheduler what it will do, so user wants to deploy the application, right? Then the definitely application required some prerequisites like CPU this much avail, this much want, and memory this much required. So likewise there will be a requirement, right? Minimum requirement. So based on the application requirement, it will go and search for the suitable worker node. It won't blindly deploy the application in the any one of the worker. So it will go and check for the suitable and best worker node for their application deployment. So who will do means the scheduler will do. So even in parallelly API instruct to the AP scheduler also. Okay, hey scheduler, there is a requirement for the application deployment, so you have to find out the suitable worker node. Then this will go and checks from uh, all the workers. Then it will takes the best worker node and it will gives to the kubelet. Then kubelet will be deploying your application in the form of pods. Actually we will see the objects of the Kubernetes later. We will see it will go and deploy your application. That's it. And I told right in the previous session also, so if suddenly goes wrong, if suddenly went wrong in your application, so it will be impacting on our containers, then immediately Kubernetes will take care of, Kubernetes will create that containers and all, right? So who will, how it will Kubernetes control means there will be a controllers. Okay, so there are number of controllers. Okay, so there are couple of controllers available. In the again the Cube API inform to the controllers. Okay, so controller go and keep on monitor your parts, monitor your applications. Okay, so if suddenly something went wrong, it will be crashing, right? Then immediately the controller will detect that and inform to the Cube API. Then after the request received from the controller, immediately it will inform to the scheduler and kubelet for creating the another container, another application. Immediately fraction of seconds it will be doing, guys. Okay, so these are the major components in your Kubernetes cluster and their functionalities. Now once you done your application deployment, end users wants to access it, right? So here outside of your Kubernetes cluster, end users will be, how they are accessing means you have to establish the network. Definitely you have to establish the network. Fine. How you are establishing means with the help of the another component, okay, which is kube proxy. Okay, the kube proxy, what it will do, it will help us to establish the network to access your application which are running inside your Kubernetes cluster from outside. That's it. Okay. And along with this network we are maintaining the volumes also, because the data is very precious, right? So you have to take care of your application data. Okay, that we will see later. Kubernetes volumes and all we will see later. So this is the setup, guys. How crew proxy will help us to access your application from the cluster to outside means, that is also we will see with the implementation of the services. Okay, node port service, load balancer, bridge networks, all the things we will see later. Okay, so this is the overall Kubernetes cluster information. Okay, your cluster architecture, and what are the things it is having, and the components, what are the components, and what are the crucial components and their functionalities, everything I have explained. Fine. Now, once it's deployed, then again the Kube API receives a message from the kubelet. It's deployed already. Then the API, Kube API, again it will returns the output through CLI only. Okay, so this is the flow of your application deployment in the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, this is the output. Okay, the output returns again through the Kube CLI only. In the same way, input also goes to through CLI only, Kube CLI. Fine. So technically, how this and all. So before going to implement all of this stuff, we have to install the Kubernetes setup. Okay, I already documented. So I will show you one by one how to install your Kubernetes, and what are the challenges during the installations and all. I will explain in the next video. Fine. Thank you guys. That's it for this video. We will see in the next video. Thanks.